Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Pete Boulay, president of the Southwest Washington Wind Symphony, and this afternoon our program honors 7 outstanding women composers, women of note. You're going to hear some very beautiful, interesting, and sometimes very challenging to perform music. Today in the lobby, if you arrived early enough, you were able to hear the sounds of the Union High School trombone duet. That was Sean Grimm and Reese Pierenboom on trombone. How about a hand for those two gentlemen? And the Skyview Brass Ensemble, Cameron Nielsen, Nathan Greenwood, Mia Young, Emmett Smith, and their directors were Mark Clausen from Union High School and Mr. Tim Heichelheim from Skyview High School. How about one more big hand for them? As I said earlier, today's program features women composers. Have you ever wondered why there are so few women composers? I never really thought about it because in my personal story, my mother was a composer. And for a time, I'm sure that I thought everybody's mom was a composer. My childhood memories are full of my mom having the manuscript paper out on the piano, pencil in one hand, the left hand on the piano keyboard, playing a little bit, writing a little bit, singing a little bit, erasing notes, writing them again. When she was finally satisfied with her composition, she'd take it to her church choir rehearsal. And then all I remember is on the way home, there'd be a bunch of grumbling about the tenors or the altos or somebody. Then back at home, she'd be right back at the piano again, sitting down and rewriting until she was satisfied with it. It's a lot like writing a report. A lot of work, a lot of rewriting until you get it just right. Of course, when I got a bit older, I came to realize how few moms and women were composers like my mom. And today, although there are women working in a whole variety of professions, we still have so few women composers. I really don't know why. But if it's simply because we haven't invited young women to dream about being composers, today we're inviting all of the young women in the audience to enjoy the beautiful music and dream a little bit. Dream about being a great composer. Why not? Someday, your music could be performed by the London Symphony, the New York Philharmonic, or even the Southwest Washington Wind Symphony. I'm sure that all of today's women composers started with a dream. And in this auditorium, the Southwest Washington Wind Symphony will take their dreams and their musical ideas and they'll make them come to life. Now, before we start making music, I want to remind you that your cell phones need to be silenced, and we'd like you to enter and exit only between musical numbers. Our program is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on TV, so you're part of our performance as an audience member. Now I'd like to introduce our board vice president and trumpet player, Mr. Jim O'Banion. How about a hand for Jim?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Pete. Welcome to this afternoon's concert. We're excited to perform for you. It's my honor to introduce our guest conductor, Dr. Patrick Murphy. Well, actually, it's difficult to refer to Patrick as a guest conductor because this is his 6th appearance with our group. We really appreciate him. And as an ensemble, we have appreciated the rehearsal process, his creative work, inspiration, and the stories he shared about each composition. The purpose of our concert is to honor unique women composers. I know Patrick spent hours researching and discovering this specific concert's musical choices. His goal, to showcase the talent and progressive compositional techniques of these outstanding women. Thank you, Patrick, for your integrity and your effort to create a wonderful musical afternoon for our audience. Now, please welcome Dr. Patrick Murphy to the podium as we begin our concert with Febres Ver, translated Spring Fever, composed by Nancy Gale Braith. Sit back and allow this multicolored landscape of sound and rhythm to evoke the sensuous essence of spring. Please enjoy. Patrick? The ballet Stepping Stones, depicting the progressive stages of the women's movement, was commissioned in 1993 for the Milwaukee Ballet. The music, composed by Joan Tower, aligns with and supports the choreography or visual storyline, as well as provides a noteworthy listening experience for the audience. Celebration Fanfare is the final movement of the ballet. Fellow composer Jack Stamp suggested to Tower that this particular movement would transcribe well for the wind ensemble. She agreed and gave him the task of bringing it to fruition, so he arranged it. Please listen to the composition's various textures of sound, the use of silence, and tempo changes. Enjoy.
And now I get to talk. Earlier than usual, kind of rare. Thank you very much for coming out today. Thank you to Scott Hewitt and the Columbian for the wonderful article that was in the paper yesterday. If you didn't see that, by all means, go out and buy a bunch of copies. Or go online. It was a wonderful article, so thank you very much. The next composer on the program, we've gone from the one who was born first, Joan Tower, to the one who's the youngest, and that is Kate Nishimura. Kate is 25, she's from Toronto, just really getting started with, as Pete and Jim said, with the dream of composing. But at 25, she's already won a huge award in Canada, actually a composer's competition, not even a young composer's composition contest, just an actual composition contest. So she's well on her way, and at the University of Portland, we're actually commissioning a new work of hers, so she'll be with us in November, so hopefully you'll come out to meet her later on this year. But she's inspired by nature, but she lives in an urban setting, so you kind of get those two ideas all in one with her music. And she describes this one as her out in her car driving west towards British Columbia and kind of literally chasing the sunlight as she was going. So you imagine yourself on a freeway and the sun is trying to get away from you as you head west, and there she is chasing it down. So, hope you enjoy this lovely piece called Chasing Sunlight. So you're welcome I didn't do that last, because that's an earworm that once you hear it, it gets stuck in your head. So we'll try to shake it out for the next half hour or so. All right, so we go to our next piece by Kim Archer. Kim is the Director of Composition Studies at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. She's written a lot of music, and unfortunately we don't hear a ton of it, but she's written a lot for bands, and most of these composers have written primarily for bands, and I think the reason for that is that the orchestra's been around a very long time. Right? We think orchestra, we think what? Beethoven, we think Brahms, we think Mozart, and those are wonderful names, but the band wasn't around when they were writing music. So the band repertoire is much, much younger, and it's still growing. We're commissioning new pieces constantly to make our repertoire, hopefully someday, as large as the orchestra's. That means that modern composers find a real vehicle in writing for this kind of ensemble as opposed to the symphony orchestra. Symphony orchestras play new music sometimes. We play it almost all the time. This is kind of where we are in our development. And so this piece, Common Threads, it's interesting. At times you'll think, oh man, this is kind of jazzy. At times you'll want to tap your foot and then realize, oh, I can't tap my foot. Why can't I tap my foot to this? It's because the time signatures are changing constantly. It's like a whirlwind up here, and we're trying to manage it all for you, so you can just sit back and listen. But it's going to be a little disconcerting at times, because you think you figured it out, and then you realize you haven't. It's a little disconcerting for me, because I think I've figured it out, but I haven't. Let me tell you. And then along the way, you're going to hear moments of beauty, moments of power, moments that you just think to yourself, wow, what has to go through somebody's mind to write that? And that's a fair question. But overall, I think you'll enjoy this. It's kind of a spoof, really, on traditional music making. And it kind of breaks every rule you can possibly break. So enjoy Kim Archer's Common Threads. And a little band 101. In case you've ever wondered why we tune in the middle of a concert, you think, wow, it all sounds so good. Why are they tuning? Well, sometimes we add new instruments in. So we have different saxophone players on this one, and they haven't had a chance to play, so it gives them a chance to blow some air through the horn and make sure that it's not going to be, 100 cents sharp. Make sure that's actually in tune with everything else. So if you ever wonder why we do that, it's not just to waste time. You're like, are you sure? I'm sure. That's the usual reason. So be on the lookout for that kind of thing. Yeah, sometimes I forget who the soloists are. A piece like that makes me sort of dizzy. And so I have to kind of look out there and say, okay, who else had a solo? Yeah, so that's a interesting piece, wouldn't you say? Fun though, right? I'm not sure they agree with you completely, because it's hard, but that's okay. It's good for us. Fun piece. All right, our next piece is by one of the big names, especially in the band world, not just for women composers, but for composers in general, and that's Julie Giraud. We're doing two of her pieces today, one slow and one fast, one now, one at the very end. She gets played a lot. So if you go to your kids' or your grandkids' band concerts, you're likely to hear a piece by Julie Giraud. This one is one of her slow ones. They're all beautiful, and they really do tell a story of some sort. This one is to honor people who have lost their lives in service, whether that be first responders, whether that be, military, whatever it happens to be, but a hymn in thanksgiving for those particular people. So, this is a hymn for the innocent.
as a musician playing, it's hard not to get emotional when you hear these beautiful lines. I hope we're conveying that emotion to you. So it's a wonderful group, all volunteer, musicians, music educators, attorneys, doctors. All of us are here in this ensemble because we love music. So we truly hope you're enjoying your afternoon. Our next piece is Tirana, written by Carol Barnett. And it's a series of dances which are often introduced and then interrupted by short fanfares. Please note that the sound and the style of the music has a vaguely southeastern European quality because of the use of exotic and often modified scales executed in unusual rhythmic combinations. Please enjoy. Volve a la Montaña, translated Return to the Mountain, is based upon the folk music of the Quechua people of Ecuador, Bolivia, and Peru. Near the end of the composition, the folk song Separación, meaning separation, is briefly quoted. As noted in your program, the words are, "My mother told me not to cry, though I'm leaving the mountains forever." Many Quechua people left their mountain villages and traditional mountain lifestyles because it became too difficult to survive. Please enjoy this thoughtful, provoking composition. Thank you.
Are you enjoying the concert? Great. At this time, I'd like to introduce two very well-respected Clark County music educators, Sam Ormson and Ann Medellin. How about a hand for Ann and Sam?
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, the Washington Music Educators had our biannual conference in Yakima, Washington. And part of that conference is recognizing outstanding music educators from around the state of Washington. And part of the mission of WMEA is to encourage that recognition as well in the local community. And this year, our region, the Lower Columbia region of the Washington Music Educators Association, is happy to award our Outstanding Music Educator Award to Mr. and Southwest Washington Wind Symphony member, Jim O'Banion. Jim, will you join me up here on the stage? Jim just recently retired, as you can tell, from music education in an official capacity. For many, many, many years, he was the supervisor of music here in the Evergreen School District. And after he left the Evergreen School District, he joined the Vancouver School District. So to say he was a cornerstone of music education in Clark County is a complete understatement. He began his career here 40 years ago as a music teacher that would travel from classroom to classroom, 5 different classes a day, teaching kids on their band instrument. And he obviously moved onward and upward in the world, not so bad for a trumpet player, if I'm not mistaken. And I am honored to call him a colleague and a mentor. He has meant so much to so many music educators and students throughout Clark County. I'd like to take a minute and introduce a more recent colleague from the Vancouver School District, Ann Medellin, to also present this to Jim.
Well, actually, it's a pleasure to come to a band concert because this isn't normal for my Sunday afternoons, and it's wonderful. I'm so impressed with the musicianship and the fact that these are almost all music educators. So let's give these guys a hand. I want to echo what Sam Ormson said, that Jim O'Banion has been probably one of my most treasured colleagues in my life as a music educator. We've had really amazing conversations, deep conversations about the arts and education and the state of the arts in our national and statewide communities. And it's a pleasure that you guys are here to celebrate the arts in the Vancouver, Clark County region. Our arts programs are amazing, and that has much to do with Jim O'Banion's leadership. So congratulations, Jim.
Congratulations, Jim. A very deserved award. We're proud to have him in our group as a trumpet player, and he's a darn good trumpet player, too. We would not be here today. This is our 13th season without your support as an audience, our musicians, and our volunteers. This is a true community effort. Over 60 musicians and volunteers collectively donate over 1,000 hours to put together each program. You're an important part of our team, and we need your support for things like building rental, programs, music purchase, etc. You get the idea, the bills, the boring stuff. If you enjoyed yourself today, please make a donation so we can continue with our mission of providing free concerts for our community. This is your community band. We're totally dependent upon your generosity, and we thank you for past generosity. The ushers will be happy to collect your donations at the conclusion of the concert. We'd also like to thank Colleen Chun, Richard Carr, the Southwest Washington Wind Symphony Board of Directors, Beacock Music, Music World, Wager Audio, Evergreen Public Schools, Video Services, our stage manager, Thomas Friedman, and especially thank our outstanding musicians and our director, Dr. Patrick Murphy. And now a most dramatic and cinematic composition about Genghis Khan, written by a woman of note, Julie Giroux. This is entitled Khan. See you at our next concert on May 20th. Tell your friends. Thanks so much.